Tonight we begin the fifth night of Chanukah, and each day of Chanukah has its own message, has its own meaning. And for today, I'd like to draw your attention to a beautiful Gemara Masechah Shabbos, the Gemara in Daf Chaf Aleph on base 21b, which is the primary sugya, the primary piece of the Talmud which discusses Chanukah. So it's talking about the time frame for lighting the menorah. So the Gemara says, when should you light the menorah? Mishetishaka Chama, from sunset, and there's a whole discussion. Ultimately, again, what sunset? Does it literally mean sunset? Is it seis? Is it nightfall? Okay, leaving that aside, we'll call it from nighttime. And then the Gemara says, but what's the end time? In other words, what time do you have until to light the menorah? To which the Gemara says, mitzvasa ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Ideally, the Gemara says, you should try to light it before pedestrian traffic stops in the marketplace. Meaning that since so much of Ner Chanukah is about pursuing Nisa, publicizing the miracle, you want to light it at a time when people are out and about. But already if it's later in the evening and people really aren't out as much, you've lost out on the opportunity for pursuing Nisa, for publicizing the miracle. So therefore the Gemara says you should light it until or ad shetichla regel min hashuk, up until the time when people stop walking in the marketplace. Pretty straightforward Gemara. So what's beautiful is the Reb Simcha ben Pshischa says something so incredibly. He says, look at those words. Ad shetichla regel. His regel we translate as foot, but the Rebbe says regel is also hergel, habituation. To become ragil, it means to become regular in something, to become habituated in something. He says, the greatest challenge in our Yiddishkeit is that since we do a lot of the same things over and over and over, they lose their meaning, they lose their intensity, they lose their inspiration. And we have many things like this. Davening probably is like the greatest example of this. We daven so much. We daven 3 times a day, and it's the same Shemona Esrei 3 times a day, same Kriyas Shema twice a day, same brachas every single morning. And anything you do on a regular basis, you run the risk that it becomes stale. I end up doing it by rote. I do it because I have an obligation to do it, but sometimes it loses its meaning, it loses its luster, it loses its excitement. Says the Rebbe, the job of the Jew is to try to infuse newness, to try to infuse excitement even into the things we do day in and day out, by finding an additional level of meaning, an additional layer of understanding, by understanding that I don't even know everything about this mitzvah, everything about this thing, discovering new vistas of comprehension and spiritual meaning, even in the things we do day in and day out, keeps it fresh, keeps it exciting. And says the Rebbe, that's the pshat in the Gemara. What's the avoda of Chanukah? What's the avoda of these days? Ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Regel means hergel, habituation, regularity. The goal is to remove the regel, to remove the hergel, the habituation, the regularity, min hashuk. Shuk could also be translated or could be vocalized as shok, from the thigh. We walk through life, we go through life, and things become ragil. Things become regular. Things become normal. Things are things that I do by rote. The job of Chanukah is to remove the regel, to remove the hergel from the shok, from the thigh, from the way we walk through life. Make your spirituality exciting. Make your spirituality something new. And if you think about it, by the way, this is the entire essence of the menorah. Because what's the menorah? The menorah it's the same mitzvah every single night, right? I'm going ahead, I'm taking oil, I'm taking a wick, I'm making a bracha, I'm lighting it, I'm singing a couple of songs. But yet, what do we do on Chanukah? Literally, we add more light to the same mitzvah every single night. I'm taking a little bit more light, one more candle, and it's the same mitzvah. It's the same mitzvah of menorah, the same mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. All I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit more to it every night. Same brachas, same songs, same kapitlach of Tehillim. I'm just adding a little bit more light to it every day. And this becomes the metaphor for successful Yiddishkeit. There are things that we do day in and day out, but my job is to add a little bit more light into those things every single day. My job, ad shetichla regel min hashuk, to remove the hergel, to remove the habituation, to remove the rote, min hashuk, from the shok, from my thigh, from walking through my Yiddishkeit. I keep walking, I keep going. Remove the habituation and replace it with excitement. How do you do that? Add something to your daily spiritual routine. Now, I don't mean adding on an additional mitzvah or taking on something else. What it means is add on some additional learning. Add on some additional understanding to the things you're already doing. I daven Shemona Esrei every single day. Well, imagine if every day in my Shemona Esrei I decided, you know what? Today I'm focusing on Ata Kadosh, and tomorrow I'm going to focus on Avos, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yisrael, Elokei Yaakov, and the next day I'm going to focus on Shema Kolenu, and then the day after I'm going to focus on Rifa'enu. It's the same mitzvah. It's the same mitzvah, just like my menorah. It's the same mitzvah. Just every single day I'm going to add a new level of understanding. I'm not davening a longer Shemona Esrei. I'm not davening an additional Shemona Esrei. I'm taking the Shemona Esrei that I'm already davening, and I'm just adding a little bit more light. Ad shetichla regel min hashuk. The goal in our Yiddishkeit is to remove the hergel, to remove the rote, to remove the habituation, min hashuk, from the way we go, we approach, we kind of travel through our Yiddishkeit. And how do you do that again? Like the menorah. Add a little bit more light, add a little bit more comprehension, and a little bit more understanding, add a little bit more spirituality to the things we're already doing, and they become so much more special. Wishing everyone a lichtige Chanukah.